joining me for another edition of This Old Gibson. I'm your host, Scotty D. What I've got here is a 1966 Gibson LG-0, Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm going to lay it down over here. We're going to have a look. Serial number 430921. It's another one of those screwed-on pickguard, screwed-on plastic bridge, mahogany-topped LG-0s. I've already loosened the fretboard extension, although it doesn't want, I think it re-glued itself. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I've done that, and I've already made a replacement Madagascar Rosewood bridge, which I think is a really fine match to the fretboard. So next, what we're going to do is radius the bottom of the bridge so it conforms to the top a little better. Right now it's like teeter-totterville. And I'd like to give a huge thanks to Dave Johnson at Scale Model Guitars. We ran this bridge over at his shop across town. You might know Dave from Instagram. He makes these beautiful guitars, electric guitars, and he also does some videos on YouTube for Premier Guitar. And he's also known for being the tech for Molly Tuttle and Billy Strings, who live across town as well. He works on all their road guitars, and he's a great friend and luthier. Alright, before we run down to the shop, a couple things to note about the 66 Gibson LG-0 is that it's just a painted headstock. It has a really skinny neck, kind of a student-sized neck. It is made of all mahogany. It has tortoise binding just on the top edge, nothing on the back side. And yeah, it's the plastic bridge model. It has super jumbo wide frets and a really thin finish. Alright, I've moved things down to the garage shop where I'm going to put that curve onto the bottom of the bridge using my Australian multi-tool bench grinder attachment. It's on a momentary foot switch, so I can just pulsate and let it idle. And this is the drill press disc sander attachment. Just get it park with these machines, and we'll move it over to the guitar and dial it in a little better. I've also seen a method where T.J. Thompson, he heats up the bridge with a heat gun and then clamps it down to a table with like a half dowel in the middle to bend the bridge. Okay, we're getting into the ballpark. Still a little teeter-totter, but good enough to get things going. I'm just going to taper the outer two pinholes with my reamer. We'll use these Teflon or nylon pins so the glue don't stick to them. That vise is the Total Vise number 7 if you're interested. Now we'll go around and score the lacquer. Got to remove the lacquer so we get a wood-to-wood bond. You can't. Glue won't stick to the lacquer, not for very long. And my customer's in Oklahoma, so I need to make sure this bridge don't come up. In the past, I've always used a chemical stripper, but for my own longevity, I've decided to get rid of that stuff and scrape. It's the healthier way to go, but it's a little harder on the knuckles. Scrape them if you got them. He scrapes bridge plates down by the seashore. Either way, strippers and scrapers work good to preserve the mahogany wood. I hate to see people using chisels and they end up taking, like scraping off a layer of wood. Oh, there's that 59 LG-1. I just got that one all ready to go. It had a serious crack around the sound hole. I'm using chalk. Here, I'm going to get this onto the bottom of the bridge and identify the high spots. So I'll scrape and sand the bottom of that bridge some more by hand. Right now what I'm doing is I'm wetting and heating the bridge plate and the footprint on the soundboard and clamping the bridge down to see if I can kind of flatten out the top overnight. I probably won't ever do that again though, because it looked like I may have blistered up a couple little spots of the lacquer behind the bridge, which I'll have to touch up. This finish is so thin. Anyways, that StewMac scissor jack, I put it on the inside with that packing tape over it. And now I'm scooping in the maple fibers into those old screw holes. I'm going to fill those babies in. 4 or 5 drops of thin CA glue, that's the StewMac number 10 CA glue. And it creates a really nice plug. And it's really quick and it's super easy. This is after sanding it with 80 grit sandpaper. Now I'm noticing there's wood missing between the pinholes, so I'm going to have to go back in and redo the whole thing with those, fill those in. That's what it looks like before I sand it. I'm not going to sand it yet though. I think I'll glue the bridge on first, ream it, and then sand it. But what I started doing was drilling the holes when I realized, you know what, let's stop right here and just go through the 2 E-string pinholes. I want to leave those other 4 alone for now. Okay, there's after a little sanding. It's starting to look okay. So a little 120 grit sandpaper, stick it sandpaper. I took a marking knife and created those little lines to give the glue just a little extra surface area. I'll use fish glue. It's a 24-hour cure with this stuff. But we're not in any hurry. Like I said, the customer is from Oklahoma. He drove it down a couple months ago. It took me a few months to get started with this. I told him it's going to take me a couple extra months because the holidays, and we've got plenty of time. Anyways, those little mahogany cauls that go underneath the foot of that clamp, those are concave on both sides. And then my cleanup is just paper towels and warm water on scoop sticks. The McConville method. I like to tighten down the clamps with my soft grip pliers. 4 or 5 turns here, 8 or 9 turns there. Next day, I'll loosen it up and remove the clamps. Actually, I let it set for 2 days. I'm pretty shifty sometimes. There's those calls with the concave surfaces. Soft grip pliers to get the nylon pins out of there. They get kind of stuck, kind of wedged in with all that glue. Now I'll use the StewMac saddle slotting jig. I would have bought the String Tech version of this, but I already had this, and you know how that goes. I did take Mike's advice though, and I went to the Bosch Colt router. I used to use the Dremel. Man, that thing's wimpy. If you're using a Dremel to cut your saddle slots, upgrade to a Bosch Colt router right away. I mean, that Dremel, man, that bit was smoking and struggling. It would like heat up so much that the oil from the rosewood would get caught in the cutters, and I'd have to stop and clean it out. Ridiculous. Anyways, this is the Saddle-Matic from Stuart McDonald. The Saddle-Matic 2000. It shows you exactly where the front edge or leading edge of the saddle slot should be. And by God, is that getting a little close to the base pinhole for me. I'm going to make it a nice fat 1/8 inch wide saddle slot. 1/8 inch. It's a cinch. And that's the shape of my saddle slot. Just like the new one. I think I'll extend out the wings of the saddle slot just another millimeter or so. Once I know I have it in the right spot, I'll lock it down and I'll run it 1 millimeter per pass. Okay, I'll stop, and then off camera I'll drop it down another millimeter and then have another pass. Here's pass number 2. Should be down to 2 millimeters after this. And after actually 4 passes, this time I got it down to 3.5 millimeters. And that's the final depth of my saddle slot, 3.5. Vacuum to clean. And there's your 1/8 inch saddle slot. Looking good. Now I'm going to finish opening up these pinholes. First I run the 3/16 brad point bit to make sure I'm centered, and then I punch through with these 3 other smaller bits. I graduate up, 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 and then finally I go the final with the 3/16 again. This is to prevent tear out on the bridge plate side, underneath, on the inside of the guitar. I'll show you later when we're done. Some people this a block of wood, but I'm not going to ever put my left hand anywhere near the point of a drill bit. It is not for me. Rain. Rain. Rain, rain, rain. Chamfer. Okay, here's the old Mylar saddle next to the new bone saddle. I'll have to get that baby down to size. Just a little oversized. Oh man, do I love this little mini disc sander. Get it at Menards. You can buy it online at Menards. It was last time I checked, it was like $69. It has variable speed to it. It's great. Now I'll use the StewMac nut and saddle vise and the StewMac understring leveling beam. Still a little tight. A little off on the sides. Oh, can't get it out. A little more shaping. Bring the intonation back on the bass side. We'll put it in the middle on the B string and move it all the way forward on the G string and the E string. High E string, that is. Suction. Then I'll hit it with some 320 grit sandpaper and 400 grit just to make sure I don't break the strings as I'm testing them out. She deserves some new pins. The old ones were mutilated from that broken up bridge plate. All the string balls were pressing too hard up against them all. So I got the D string in there. I like to cut a little spot for the wound part of the string to set up against the wood. It always sounds a little bit better when the string is pressing up against the wood. If that saddle wasn't so close to the pinhole, I'd say maybe even put unslotted pins in this guitar, but I better keep the string as far back as possible so I don't have too crazy of a break angle. We have break angle issues right now due to this design. The intonation point with the Saddle-matic, you can't fudge with that. You can't argue with the Saddle-matic. All right, I got it strung up, and with this saddle height, we've got 12 millimeters above the soundboard. The strings to the soundboard 12 millimeters, just under half an inch. But is this too extreme of a break angle for this? I can always bring it down. Let me know what you think, because next week it looks like we're gonna have to be pulling the neck on this baby because we're left with this crazy action. So I can bring the saddle down a little, but I definitely need to pull the neck. So it's just that the low E saddle is so close to the pinhole that it gives it a sort of a really extreme break angle look. It's not too bad, but I should probably lower it a skosh. But let me know what you think about that wood match there. That's the Madagascar Rosewood versus the Brazilian Rosewood fretboard. Pretty good. And that's the break angle that I'm dealing with right now, but I can certainly lower that down. So I've got 12/64ths, 11/64ths, that's 5 millimeters and 4 millimeters. It's got to have a neck reset. Let's plan on doing that next week. The intonation doesn't sound too bad for the strings being sky high. Thanks for hanging around, guys. Hope you have a good week. See you next time. Catch you later.